Welcome to the Mike Bates Show. This is Mike Bates. I have been accused of not taking the coronavirus seriously. Of course, I've been accused of that mostly by uninformed sheep who have been taking it too seriously because they've just blindly accepted the fake news they've been spoon-fed by the propaganda press and they haven't done an ounce of research of their own. But I've done massive amounts of research on it. Mostly on the efficacy of masks, which is why I know that mask mandates don't accomplish any good, and in some cases have actually made the spread of the coronavirus worse. Yes, the data absolutely supports me on that. Or perhaps worded better, my statements were formed by the data, which is why I actually know what I'm talking about, and my detractors are limited to just regurgitating the talking points they hear others say. My beliefs are based on facts, not feelings. But although I don't wear a mask because I refuse to put on the costume piece the politicians demand that I wear in their stage play that is the coronavirus panic, I have not been irresponsible with my health or with the health of others. I maintain reasonable distance from others as I go about my life. I wash my hands far more often than I used to. I carry around a small container of isopropyl alcohol, which I use to sanitize my hands frequently. Very frequently. But I do eat indoors at restaurants. I do go grocery shopping. I've been to friends' houses and they've been over to mine. And I've taken 2 flights during this pandemic. And the only reason I haven't taken more is because my wife refuses to fly with me until this pandemic is over. I've been trying to get her to go to Cozumel, Mexico with me since September, but she won't go. And while I really want to go scuba diving in the Caribbean, I'm not going to go alone. I'd much rather travel with my wife. But I have been going about my life. Not as usual, of course. Some things have changed, like when I do eat at a restaurant, it's with friends, not my wife, because she'll only do takeout. And while I don't understand her paranoia, she's free to be paranoid. My problem is not with people who wear masks while driving in their cars by themselves. My problem is not people wearing masks when they're walking the dog 100 feet from anybody else. My problem is not when people wear masks during Zoom calls from home when they live alone. And yes, some people have done that. My problem is not what other people do at all. My problem is when you try to scold me for not doing it. And I really have a problem with the government mandating what are unnecessary, unscientific, ineffective, oppressive, unconstitutional, and severely damaging coronavirus rules on the rest of us. And I'm infuriated when those same politicians don't then follow their own stupid rules. And it is that hypocrisy and better than you rules don't apply to me arrogance that I want to talk about today. The Democrat governor of California, Gavin Newsom, who has imposed some of the most unconstitutional coronavirus restrictions of any governor, demands that the peasant Californians not attend parties because attending a party is a certain death sentence. Or it's the equivalent of attempted murder, depending on which day it is. There are people in California who have been arrested for attending parties. But Newsom is a Democrat. And a common theme among Democrats is, rules are for thee, not for me. So in keeping with that Democrat hypocrisy, on November 6th, the governor attended a party to celebrate the birthday of some hotshot lobbyist at a fancy French restaurant in Napa called French Laundry. Which doesn't sound like a very nice place to eat. What do they have, washing machines and dryers there? For all I know, it's pronounced French Laundry. And that translates into English as snooty place for elite snobs to eat without being disturbed by the great unwashed peasants we lord over. My wife used to teach high school French. Maybe I ought to ask her what it means. Anyway, about 10 days after that birthday party, Gavin Newsom was called out for his blatant hypocrisy. So he responded with a video message that he considers to be an explanation and an apology. Now, this is radio, so you can't see the video, obviously, but I saw it. His phony Cheshire cat smiling, wild gesticulating arm movements, condescending pointing at the camera and rapid blinking throughout the entire video indicate to me he's lying. And he was lying. Listen to what he said, and then I'll tell you afterward what the big lie was.
A few weeks ago, I was asked to go to a friend's 50th birthday. My wife and I, a friend that I've known for almost 20 years, and a friend that had, put a lot of time and energy into his 50th birthday. It was in Napa, which was in the orange status, relatively loose compared to some other counties. It was to be an outdoor restaurant, and we started the program started at 4 o'clock. It was one of those early reservations. I got there a little bit late at 4:30, and as soon as I sat down at the larger table, I realized it was a little larger group than I had anticipated. And I made a bad mistake. Instead of sitting down, I should have stood up and walked back, got in my car, and drove back to my house. Instead, I chose to sit there with my wife and a number of other couples that were outside the household. And you can quibble about the guidelines, et cetera, but the spirit of what I'm preaching all the time was contradicted, and I got to own that. And so I want to apologize to you because I need to preach and practice, not just preach and not practice. And I've done my best to do that. We're all human. We all fall short sometimes. We've been out, and I think for 3 times since, in fact, I know it's been 3 times because I remember all of those dinners very, very vividly since February, just 3 times. Twice with my wife, by myself, outdoors, and then this one occasion with a larger group. And there were just a few extra people there than the spirit of what I am promoting. And so if we're going to minimize mixing, you got to own up to that. So I just want folks to know that. Paid for our dinner, and we had an early dinner, but didn't matter. I shouldn't have been there. I should have turned back around. And so when that happens, you pay the price, but you also own the mistake, and you don't ever make it again. And you have my word on that.
Did you hear him say it was an outdoor restaurant?
An outdoor restaurant.
What kind of restaurant, Governor?
An outdoor restaurant.
Was it indoors or outdoors?
An outdoor restaurant.
Oh, okay, outdoors.
An outdoor restaurant.
Got it, Governor. It was an outdoor restaurant.
An outdoor restaurant.
But was it an outdoor restaurant? Well, it did have some outdoor seating, so maybe that qualifies it as an outdoor restaurant. But the birthday party you attended didn't dine outdoors. You dined indoors. That makes it an indoor restaurant where you're concerned. So you're a hypocrite and a liar. Not that that should be news to anyone. You're a Democrat politician. Of course you're a hypocrite and a liar. And the only reason we know it was an indoor restaurant, not an outdoor restaurant, as you claimed, is because the Fox News affiliate in Los Angeles was given photos showing the party was not outside, not social distancing, and not wearing masks. Now look, Governor, if you want to attend an indoor party without social distancing and without wearing masks, you go right ahead. I have no problem with that. Unless you prohibit other people from doing it. And then I have a huge problem with that. It is your hypocrisy as a self-important rules don't apply to me tyrant that disgusts me. Frankly, a lot of things about you disgust me, but in the context of today's show topic, I'll limit it to your tyrannical, unconstitutional lockdown orders that you impose on the little people, but flagrantly violate with your similarly arrogant friends. And as if Governor Newsom's presence wasn't enough hypocrisy by the better than you, more important than you, do as I say, not as I do crowd, you know who else was at that birthday party? Dustin Corcoran, the CEO of the California Medical Association, and Janice Norman, the association's senior vice president of government relations and political operations. Now that wouldn't be so bad, except that the California Medical Association and their members have been very vocal telling people to wear masks and stay home to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. Yet they themselves go out and party in a large group without masks. The hypocrisy of the elite has no bounds, does it? You know who dined the very next day at that very same French restaurant? The French Landry? London Breed. Now, if you think London Breed is a type of dog, you wouldn't be that far off. London Breed is the Democrat mayor of San Francisco. And she attended a birthday party at the same French restaurant Newsom did. This is despite the lockdown rules she imposed on her unworthy subjects. But hey, the birthday party was for Goretti Louis. I don't know if I pronounced that last name correctly or not, but she's the wife of Lawrence Louis, pronounced that way or not. It's spelled L-U-I. Louis? 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 I have no idea. But anyway, he's a major hotel developer in the Bay Area. So it's not like they could have had the birthday party at a food bank where the mayor's lockdown orders have forced many families to grovel for a bite to eat. I mean, she's rich, so she gets special dispensation from the rest of us peons. Now, I'm not one to complain about how rich people spend their money. If they earned the money legally and are spending it on something legal, it's none of my concern what they spend it on. But I do think it's germane to point out that this fancy restaurant's menu prices range from $350 to $1,200 per person, not including alcohol. And I am bothered by the politicians who impose unlawful restrictions that force small business owners into bankruptcy, cause financial hardship for the employees of businesses forced to close, and then go spend that kind of money on a meal. And even if the mayor didn't pay for the food herself, and now that I think about it, she probably didn't. I bet the birthday girl's husband picked up the tab. But I still have a problem with it the same way I'd have a problem if the party was at Chuck E. Cheese's. It's not the price of the food that bothers me, it's the hypocrisy. That and the fact so many let-them-eat-cake Democrats have forced people out of work and onto unemployment welfare benefits, and then they go out and spend more money on one meal than the weekly unemployment check they force their constituents to live off of. And then they have the audacity to claim they feel our pain? It's disgusting. Oh, I'm just getting started. Quick break, then we'll be back with more when the Mike Bates Show continues. Welcome back to the Mike Bates Show. This is Mike Bates. What do most people in San Francisco do when they need a haircut? They put on a mask and get their hair cut outdoors because barbershops and hair salons are not allowed to cut hair indoors by government edict. You know, to keep us all from dying of the COVID. But what does Nancy Pelosi do when she needs a haircut? Well, since she's a more important than the rest of us elitist Democrat, she gets the luxury of an indoor haircut without a mask. And when Fox News aired video of her inside the salon without a mask at a time even being inside the salon at all was a violation of San Francisco's coronavirus rules, she caught a lot of grief over it. But do you remember what her justification was? She said she was set up by the owner of the salon. But the story is a little sweeter than that. Do you know why she needed to go to the salon to get her hair done in the first place? Because Pelosi's personal stylist, who usually went to Pelosi's house to do her hair, wasn't able to that day. Yep, Nancy Pelosi gets her hair done professionally at home. So she's usually exempt from the lockdown rules she and her ilk impose on the rest of us. That's so typical, isn't it? That the people imposing rules on us are largely unaffected by the rules. Do you know what every single government official who has imposed unconstitutional restrictions on people's ability to earn a living have in common? They are all getting paid their regular taxpayer-funded salaries in full. They're not lining up at the food bank to get a bag of groceries because the government made their employer close. They're not worried about how they're going to pay their bills because their pay is unaffected, unlike we peasants they lord over. Before I leave the Bay Area, did you hear what the Democrat mayor of San Jose did? California imposed an unconstitutional rule on the peasants that made it illegal for people of more than 3 households to gather together at someone's home. That includes family members. And that's outside the home. Forget about going inside. You're not allowed to gather outside. No more than 3 households can peacefully assemble in California, where apparently the First Amendment right of the people peaceably to assemble doesn't exist. But Sam Liccardo, the Democrat mayor of San Jose, attended family Thanksgiving dinner at his parents' house with family members from 5 households. His penalty? Nothing, of course. The D in parentheses stands for do not prosecute. So he and his family could gather for Thanksgiving dinner, but don't you dare try it. You'll be arrested for trying to kill people. And after the mayor's violation was made public, his office issued a statement that said, and I'm reading directly from it verbatim, quote, 8 of us representing 5 households sat around 3 distanced tables in our own family groups on the back patio, and we wore masks when not eating. End quote. No, Mr. Mayor, that doesn't cut it. The rules you and your ilk imposed don't say you can have 5 households together if it's only 8 people, or if you're at 3 distanced tables, or if you wear masks when not eating. The rules say you can't gather. Period. And you gathered. There's nothing more about it. You violated the rules because you're a Democrat and you think rules don't apply to you. You're a disgrace. And if you had any decency, you'd resign. But of course you won't. And your stupid constituents are such ignorant lemmings, they won't even care. I'm sure you'll be reelected if you run. Because being a Democrat in California means never being held accountable for your actions. That actually applies nationwide too. But Democrats in California enjoy a special level of sycophantic loyalty from the dumbasses. Now, usually when I say that, I immediately explain that that was 2 words, dumb masses. But in this case, it was just 1 word. It's hard to find dumber people than the people of California. The mayor's statement also said, quote, I understand that the state regulations issued on November 13th limit the number of households at a private gathering to 3. I apologize for my decision to gather contrary to state rules by attending this Thanksgiving meal with my family. I understand my obligation as a public official to provide exemplary compliance with the public health orders and certainly not to ignore them. I commit to do better. End quote. Yeah, right. He's not apologizing for violating the rules. He's just sorry he got caught. Oh, and one more thing that's just the cherry on top of this bowl of crap. Just 1 day before Thanksgiving, he tweeted out, quote, cases are spiking, in part because we're letting our guard and masks down with family and friends. Let's cancel the big gatherings this year and focus on keeping each other safe. End quote. Yeah, again, rules are for thee, not for me. All those examples of hypocrisy were from California, the cereal state. You know, the land of fruits, nuts, and flakes. And it's not just limited to the Bay Area. Last month, the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors voted 3-2 to ban outdoor dining at all 39,000 restaurants throughout the county. One of the 3 yes votes, so arguably the deciding vote, came from Democrat Supervisor Sheila Kuehl. She, along with 2 other tyrants on the board, thought outdoor dining was so dangerous during the pandemic that it needed to be outlawed. Indoor dining was already illegal. But now outdoor dining was also banned, inconveniencing millions of people and putting thousands of restaurant employees out of work. So what did Sheila Kuehl do after she voted to ban outdoor dining in LA County? And by after, I mean literally right after. As soon as the meeting where she imposed her will on the county, she went and wait for it, dined at a restaurant in Santa Monica. Yep. The ban was scheduled to go into effect the next day, so it wasn't an illegal dinner, but it showed astonishing contempt for the citizens of Los Angeles that she thinks she's superior to. It's an outrage, but it's typical of Democrat politicians with their do as I say, not as I do attitudes. But do you know what the best part of the story is? And by best, I mean worst. Spectrum News 1 reporter Alex Cohen said Sheila Kuehl claimed she went to the restaurant to personally deliver the news of the coming ban. I mean, that sounds like a joke, but Spectrum News 1 is not a satire site, so it was reported as fact. I can't help but be skeptical, though. There's 39,000 restaurants in LA County. So the restaurant she dined at needed to be informed in person, and the other 38,999 restaurants would learn of it how? But regardless of whether or not she really said that, it shows she's a disgusting pig. And if the voters of LA County are dumb enough to reelect her, then they deserve what they get. So the result of that absurd, unnecessary, and arguably unconstitutional dining ban is that the supervisors who imposed it won't be able to dine at their favorite restaurants for a while. But they're still collecting their full government paychecks and building up credit in their generous lifetime government pensions. As for the owners of those restaurants, well, hundreds are known to have declared bankruptcy. Thousands say they can't survive 3 months more of it. Keep in mind that many of these restaurants invested tens of thousands of dollars for the infrastructure to accommodate outdoor dining service when their indoor dining service was outlawed months ago. So they invested all that additional capital, and now some elected tyrant decrees from on high that they can't use it? This is the problem when people who have no stake in the outcome of their policy decisions get to make policy decisions that affect others. At least one restaurant owner, Angela Marsden, the owner of Pineapple Hill Saloon and Grill, was brought to tears of anger and frustration when a Hollywood production crew set up catering tents literally just yards from her now closed outdoor dining area. And this wasn't a small catering tent either. Have you seen the video of it? It's a massive temporary dining facility set up to feed a movie or TV production crew. Listen to Angela's emotion in this video she produced. The government is literally causing her to close and go bankrupt. Listen to her understandable outrage.
So this is my place, the Pineapple Hill Grill and Saloon. If you go to my page, you can see all the work I did for outdoor dining, for tables being 7 feet apart. And I come in today because I'm organizing a protest, and I came in to get stuff for that. And I walk into my parking lot, and obviously Mayor Garcetti has approved this being set up for a movie company. I'm losing everything. Everything I own is being taken away from me. And they set up a movie company right next to my outdoor patio, which is right over here. And people wonder why I'm protesting and why I have had enough. They have not given us money and they have shut us down. We cannot survive. My staff cannot survive. Look at this. Tell me that this is dangerous, but right next to me as a slap in my face, that's safe. This is safe. 50 feet away. This is dangerous. Mayor Garcetti and Gavin Newsom is responsible for every single person that doesn't have unemployment, that does not have a job, and all the businesses that are going under. And we need your help. We need somebody to do something about this.
So it's okay for a movie caterer to feed the actors and production staff from a temporary tent, but it's not okay for a restaurant owner who has a permanent structure and hundreds of thousands, if not millions, in business debt to feed her customers? What the hell are these elected officials thinking? If you listened to that, and still support these tyrannical shutdown orders, then don't ever listen to me or talk to me again. Because I want nothing to do with you. If you support this tyranny, then you are the problem. You are the enemy of freedom. You are the enemy of capitalism. You are the enemy of our republic. And I want nothing to do with you, ever. If you support these kinds of actions, I frankly hope you do catch the coronavirus and die from it. Is that too harsh? Is that cruel? Is that heartless? Hey, if your death means there's fewer tyrants in this country, so be it. That means more oxygen for the decent Americans who still believe we are a free republic. You think I'm joking? I'm not. If you think it's okay to kill people through an oppressive government, then I hope you do die. That's not hyperbole. That's not drama. And I'm not saying that to get a reaction. I'm serious. This nation would be a lot better off if you and your ilk weren't a part of it. If you want to cower in the corner like a frightened fawn, you have the right to do that. But what you do not have the right to do is use the force of government to impose unconstitutional restrictions on the rest of us. People like you are dangerous enemies of our republic, and I do not want you here. You do not deserve to be an American. But since we can't kick you out of the country, maybe you can die from COVID instead. The country would be a lot better off if you did. On that note, let's take a break. And I wasn't kidding, by the way. I was dead serious in those words. If you support this tyranny, then I despise your very existence. And so would our founders, who are rolling in the grave over what the people you support have done. Let's take that break. And I'll be back in a moment with more examples of the hypocrisy that too many people are accepting. When the Mike Bates Show continues. Welcome back to the Mike Bates Show. This is Mike Bates. So early last month, at least 8 California lawmakers, in the middle of a pandemic they think is so severe that the state has imposed travel and gathering restrictions that have decimated the economy, flew to Hawaii to attend a week-long conference at a $500 a night resort in Maui. Paid for by the taxpayers, of course. The more important than you legislators defended the trip as being an important conference where policies about handling the pandemic were discussed. Well, I didn't attend the conference myself, so I'll take their word for it that the pandemic was discussed, although I'm certain it wasn't the primary topic. And I'm also certain that the conference could have just as easily been held in California, or via Zoom teleconference for less than $25. But hey, the state's only in debt $153 billion with another $54 billion expected to be added on top of that this year. What's another $100,000 of taxpayer money? Debt, actually, to fund a lavish junket to Hawaii, right? 3 days before that trip, Governor Newsom urged residents not to travel out of state and imposed a 14-day quarantine for anyone arriving in California from another state. How much you want to bet those lawmakers didn't quarantine when they got home? Oh, the hypocrisy. Governor Whitmer of Michigan has been the absolute worst governor of all when it comes to her unconstitutional lockdown orders. She's the one whose orders are so overly restrictive that if I lived next door to my mother in Michigan, it would be a crime subject to jail time if I visited my mother's house for any reason other than to provide health care. And Governor Whitmer made church attendance illegal also. And she even went so far as to order that stores she deemed essential, that were allowed to be open, had to rope off sections of the store selling items she decreed to be non-essential. I mean, that woman is a micromanaging dictator of the worst degree. As bad as other Democrat governors are, she makes them look halfway sane by comparison. But one of Governor Whitmer's orders prohibited recreational boating anywhere in the state. Gee, what's the risk of catching COVID on a boat in the middle of a lake in Michigan, huh? Is there a number less than 0? Well, anyway, Governor Whitmer basically outlawed boating. So when her husband called the owner of the marina in northern Michigan where they stored their boat and asked him to put it back in the water so they could use it over Memorial Day weekend, he, the marina owner, reported that to the press. And the governor's response when asked about it was that her husband was just making a joke. Yeah, how very not funny. And also how very not true. It wasn't a joke, it was pulling rank. Fortunately, the marina owner refused to bow down and kiss the governor's ring. And he did not put their boat in the water. Chicago has had draconian shutdown orders that restrict peaceful assemblies even if they're for political rallies, which if you have any knowledge of the Constitution whatsoever, you know are specifically protected under the First Amendment. As are religious gatherings, which were also made illegal in Chicago via unconstitutional executive orders from Democrat tyrants. The Constitution absolutely, positively, there is no argument otherwise, does not allow the government to prohibit peaceful assemblies, political assemblies, and religious assemblies. But Chicago, like many cities run by Democrat tyrants, banned all three. All in the name of public health, of course, even though there is no public health clause in the Constitution that allows the suspension of constitutional rights during a pandemic. America's founders knew public health threats existed. Smallpox and tuberculosis were both far more contagious and had far higher fatality rates than COVID-19. But our founders didn't include any mechanism to permit the suspension of our Constitution when a pandemic occurs. But Democrats did it anyway because Democrats don't believe they are bound by our Constitution. Democrats think they can do whatever they want to do if they think it's for the greater good. And they're not going to let some 200-year-old parchment stop them, are they? Remember how Democrats condemned every Trump rally as an irresponsible COVID superspreader event? Well, apparently the coronavirus is contagious at a Trump rally, but not at a Biden victory celebration. Because when the media declared Biden to be the winner, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who had issued a citywide stay-at-home order, joined the massive street rally in Chicago with no social distancing, no mask, no nothing. Well, she had a bullhorn, which she used to deliver a speech to the other people who were violating her lockdown stay-at-home orders with no consequences. But you get two people holding Trump signs at a street corner and they're treated as if they're serial killers out to murder as many passersby as possible. If it's a Trump-supporting assembly, they're irresponsible, vicious killers. If it's a Biden-supporting assembly, why, that's what America's about. It's protected by the First Amendment. Rules are for thee, not for me, right? Mayor Lightfoot was asked about her attendance at that gathering, and listen to her explanation.
I think that we've been saying all along, everybody has to take care, everybody has to take precaution. I will tell you, in that big crowd a week ago, everybody was wearing masks.
Stop for a sec. That's not true. Not everyone was wearing a mask, including the mayor. She did not have a mask on. Okay, resume.
There are times when we actually do need to have a relief and come together, and I felt like that was one of those times. That crowd was gathered whether I was there or not. But this has been a super hard year on everyone.
So there are times when we actually do need to have a relief and come together? And you felt like that was one of those times? So you, Madam Mayor, get to decide which times are one of those times? You get to decide which public gatherings are acceptable and which are not? Is that what you're saying? Why am I even asking the question? It's what you said. So if the Queen supports a gathering, it's okay to gather. But if the Queen does not support a gathering, then the gathering is illegal and must be stopped. Gee, I wonder how many pro-King George rallies our founders had in mind when they thought we needed free speech and free assembly rights. The whole point of the First Amendment is to protect the rights of people the people in government don't like. The whole point of the First Amendment is to protect the speech of people the people in government don't like. The whole point of the First Amendment is to protect the assembly rights of people the people in government don't like. The whole point of the First Amendment is to protect the political expression rights of the people in government don't like. If the First Amendment only protected the rights of people the people in government did like, why would we need it at all? Who would act to stop the gathering? This is truly Orwellian. But the idiots who support these Democrat dictators love it. They love it when they have rights and their opponents don't. And we're tolerating this in America? My God, are we that stupid? Are we really that ignorant of what our rights are? Are we really that unaware of what it took to secure those rights these Democrats are so deliberately violating? And that was not Mayor Lightfoot's first act of coronavirus hypocrisy. Earlier in the year, the state of Illinois ordered all barbershops and hair salons to close. But when Queen Lightfoot wanted her hair styled, what'd she do? She booked a private appointment with a hairdresser at a salon in Chicago and got her hair done. Now, this was in direct violation of the governor's orders that the mayor supported and implored others to follow. But hey, like most Democrat politicians, the rules don't apply to her. When she was asked about it at a press conference, this was her explanation.
I'm the public face of this city. I'm on national media, and I'm out in the public eye. And, you know, I'm a person who, I take my personal hygiene very seriously. As I said, I felt like I needed to have a haircut. I'm not able to do that myself, and so I got a haircut.
Well, what about your constituents who take their personal hygiene very seriously and feel like they need to have a haircut but can't do it themselves, huh? And then she said this in response to a follow-up question at the same press conference.
I am practicing social distancing. The woman who cut my hair had a mask, had gloves on. I'm practicing what I'm preaching.
Well, that's even worse, Madam Mayor. The state's shutdown order did not have an exception for when the person cutting the hair has a mask and gloves on. So not only are you not practicing what you're preaching, you're in direct violation of the state mandate you supported and told Chicagoans to abide by. You support tyranny when you're not subject to it. How very not egalitarian. There is no way I'm going to get through this entire list today. I got to take another break. I got a lot more to give, too. There's no way it's all going to happen. But we'll cover what we can when the Mike Bates Show continues. Welcome back to the Mike Bates Show. This is Mike Bates. There is no way I'm going to finish this list today. I've got pages and pages of examples in front of me that I'm just not going to have time to get to, so I'm going to have to wrap it up with this one. In November, Steve Adler, the Democrat mayor of Austin, Texas, posted a video to Facebook urging his constituents not to travel. Do you know where he was when he filmed that? At his house? No. At the mayor's office in Austin? No. Maybe at a beautiful outdoor park in Austin? Nope. He filmed it while on vacation with his family at a resort in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. Why do politicians get away with such appalling hypocrisy? Part of it is they think you won't find out, and they're largely right about that. Part of it is they think you don't care. And while you may care, there's a lot of people who are so afraid of catching this virus that has a 99.97% survival rate that they'll accept literally any restrictions the politicians impose on them. And part of it is that these politicians, mostly Democrats but not all, The tyrannical governors of Ohio and Maryland are Republicans. And the idiotic and cowardly mayor of Pensacola is a Republican. And the only reason he hasn't imposed any crazier stuff than he has is because our half-decent Republican governor, Ron DeSantis, won't let him. His executive order preempted municipal and county coronavirus restrictions. Thankfully. And thank God we have Ron DeSantis as our governor in Tallahassee. Do you realize how close we came to having Andrew Gillum as our governor? The guy who not long after the election was caught in a motel with a gay prostitute doing meth? Yeah, that Andrew Gillum. He came within 34,000 votes in a recount of being our governor. And if he was our governor, Michigan might actually be the second worst state to live in right now. It was Lord Acton who said, "Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely." Well, power also brings arrogance and a sense of superiority. And I think it is that arrogance, sense of superiority, and contempt for the little people they think they are entitled to lord over with impunity that causes them to violate their oaths of office, ignore our Constitution, and impose unjust mandates on us that they themselves are unwilling to abide by. The bottom line is these people think they're better than you. They think you need to be lorded over, controlled, supervised, subjugated, and cared for. It's for your own good, after all. They think you need to do as you're told without question. And part of it is they hate you. They think you won't do anything about it. They think you're stupid. And to be candid and undiplomatic, if you aren't willing to oppose them, you are stupid. And you deserve to be trampled on. The problem is you're taking the rest of us down with you. So grow a spine and try to at least lift one finger in helping preserve this republic. Because if we let them get away with this tyranny this time, it'll be far worse next time. And there will be a next time. I'm Mike Bates. Thanks for listening.